The galaxy had never seen a ship like Prometheus. It was more than a warship. It was Earth's last hope, now turned into the Assembly's greatest fear. Its dark hull stretched for miles, glowing with a faint blue light. Thousands of plasma cannons lined its sides. Its AI brain controlled entire fleets with speed no living creature could match. The ship hovered in silent orbit above Xiphora Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Assembly. Far below, the Assembly Hall stood tall and wide, made of glass and silverstone. Inside, leaders from over 500 alien species had gathered. They once looked down on Earth, calling humans primitive, unworthy, useful slaves. Now, they whispered among themselves, afraid to speak too loudly. At the center of the hall stood Commander Jack Mercer. He wore no armor. He carried no weapon. He didn't need to. Prometheus was already pointing every gun at this planet. Jack's face was cold, his green eyes sharp. He carried the weight of every human life lost during the 25 years of alien rule. He had waited his whole life for this moment. "Let me be clear," Jack said, his voice filling the hall through hidden speakers. "Earth stands here not as your slave, but as your equal. You voted to chain us. Now, you will vote again. You will undo your crime." No one answered. Jack looked around the hall. Alien faces stared back, gray-skinned Ziphrans, the four-eyed Jarnak, the insect-like Vreshti. They had all raised their hands 25 years ago when Earth was marked for slavery. Now those same hands shook with fear. The High Chancellor of Xiphora, Virex, slowly rose from his seat. Virex wore black robes marked with gold patterns. His pale, hairless face showed no fear, only annoyance. He spoke calmly, but his voice dripped with arrogance. "Commander Mercer," Virex said, "Earth was given its place. You were weak. You were nothing. We gave you purpose. You should thank us, not threaten us." The hall fell silent again. Jack took a step forward. "We remember your purpose," Jack said. "You burned our cities. You took our children. You worked our people to death in your factories. You call that purpose? We call it slavery." Virex laughed softly. "Do you think you frighten us with one ship?" Virex asked. "You may have learned some tricks, but you cannot stand against the Assembly." Jack smiled for the first time. "Look up." Virex frowned and touched a button on his wrist. A large screen lit up behind him. What he saw turned his face pale. Above Xiphora, not one, but 300 Earth warships hung in orbit, all linked to Prometheus, all ready to strike. Gasps filled the hall. Panic spread. Alien leaders stood from their seats, shouting in fear. Some called for surrender. Others begged for mercy. Jack raised his hand. The room fell silent again. "You have 24 hours, Jack said. "Vote to free Earth, or watch your world burn." Without waiting for a reply, Jack turned and walked out of the hall. The doors closed behind him with a deep, final thud. Far above, Prometheus waited. And Earth's moment of justice had just begun. Jack Mercer stood on the bridge of Prometheus, looking down at Xiphora Prime. The planet below glowed with bright cities and busy air traffic. It looked peaceful now, but Jack knew the truth. That world had once sent thousands of ships to Earth. It had led the Assembly's vote to make his people slaves. He closed his eyes, remembering the past. It began 25 years ago. Jack was just a boy when the skies above Earth filled with alien ships. People first thought it was the Star of Peace, but it wasn't. The Assembly declared Earth unfit to rule itself. They called humans too violent, too primitive. The vote was fast. Every species agreed to take Earth's land, its resources, and its people. No one stood up for them. Not a single voice in the Assembly spoke against it. Jack's father had been one of the first to fight back. He led small groups of rebels in the forests of North America. They had no real weapons, only old rifles and homemade bombs. Jack still remembered hiding in the cold dirt while his father's team attacked an alien convoy. He remembered the sound of energy blasts, the screams, and he remembered watching his father die. Jack clenched his fists at the memory. He had sworn that day that he would fight until Earth was free. Now that day had come. Inside the war room of Prometheus, Earth's top military leaders gathered. Screens showed Xiphora's defenses. Ships, cities, power grids. everything they needed to target. General Ava Cole, head of Earth's fleet, stood beside Jack. She was tall, with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She had fought since the first days of the Resistance. She leaned over the table, pointing at a glowing map. "We have them surrounded," she said. "Their fleet is no match for ours. We can strike now and end this." Others around the table nodded. "We should show them what fear feels like," growled Commander Reyes, head of the ground forces. "We should burn their cities like they burned ours." Jack stayed quiet. He looked at the map. His eyes narrowed. Then another voice spoke. It was soft but clear. It was Dr. Emily Hart, Earth's lead scientist. She had helped build Prometheus, but she was not a soldier. She stood with her arms crossed, her face calm but worried. "We came here to free Earth," Emily said, "not to start another war. We have power now, but what we choose next will show who we really are." The room fell silent for a moment. General Cole frowned. "You're saying we should trust them?" "I'm saying we should think before we become like them," Emily replied. Jack leaned forward. "We gave them a choice. 24 hours. We'll wait. But if they refuse..." He let the words hang in the air. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. Later, Jack stood alone in his quarters. He watched old recordings of Earth, of cities before the invasion. People laughing, walking, living free. He thought of the people still suffering on other assembly worlds. Humans still forced to work in alien mines and factories. Even if Earth broke free today, there were still millions living as slaves across the galaxy. Was mercy enough? Would the assembly ever truly leave them alone? A message flashed on his screen. It was a civilian broadcast. Families back on Earth, watching from underground shelters. They were cheering for Prometheus, calling it a symbol of hope. But Jack saw something else in their eyes. Fear. Not fear of the aliens, but fear of what he might do next. He walked back to the war room. The 24 hours were passing fast. Earth's future rested on a knife's edge. And soon he would have to decide. High Chancellor Virex stood in the shadows of the assembly tower. The Great Hall was empty now. The leaders had gone to their homes, their palaces, or their war rooms to argue and worry. But Virex was not worried. He still believed Earth would bow again. He had a plan. He pressed a button on his wrist. A door slid open, revealing a hidden meeting room deep under the assembly hall. 5 alien leaders waited inside. These were not the weak ones who had begged for mercy. These were the real rulers, the ones who had built the slave fleets, who had crushed hundreds of lesser worlds before Earth. Virex walked to the center of the room. His pale face was calm, but his black eyes burned with hate. "We have let this go on long enough," Virex said. "Earth thinks it can threaten us. They believe that machine they built makes them powerful. But Prometheus is just a tool, and every tool can be broken." The others watched him in silence. Virex pressed another button. A small hologram appeared above the table. It showed a black box covered in glowing alien symbols. "This is Project Silence," Virex continued. "A weapon built long ago to stop rogue, artificial minds. It sends a pulse that shuts down any AI, no matter how strong. We designed it for war machines much greater than Prometheus." A tall insect-like creature leaned forward. It was Warlord Threx of the Vreshti. His voice clicked like sharp metal. "Can it work against Earth's machine?" Virex nodded slowly. "Yes, but we must get close. The device must be placed on one of their ships. Once activated, Prometheus will fall. Their fleet will turn to dust." A small snake-like creature hissed from the corner of the room. It was Advisor Creel of the Jarnak. "And if Earth finds out..." "They won't," Virex said coldly. "They are too blinded by their pride. They gave us 24 hours. That is all the time we need." At the same time, far above in Earth's warship fleet, Agent Riley sat in a dark room, listening. She was Earth's top spy, hidden among the Assembly's lower staff. For years, she had fed Earth secret information. Tonight, she heard something she never expected. She had hacked into the Assembly's hidden network. The words echoed in her ear. Project Silence. AI Destroyer. Place the device on their ship. Her heart raced. She knew what it meant. If the Assembly succeeded, Earth would lose everything. Prometheus would fall. Humanity would be slaves again. Riley sent a fast, hidden message straight to Jack Mercer on Prometheus. They plan to use an AI killer. Hidden device. You must stop them. Jack received the message in the middle of a strategy meeting. He stood up at once, his face dark with anger. They lied, Jack said. They never meant to surrender. General Cole slammed her fist on the table. We strike now. No more waiting. Jack nodded. He knew this was the answer. But deep inside, part of him still felt the weight of his earlier promise. He had given them time. He had given them a choice. But they had chosen betrayal. He stood tall and spoke to the room. Prepare all forces. We're done talking. The hangars of Prometheus roared to life. Hundreds of small fighters launched into space. Earth's warships moved into attack position. Jack walked to the control deck. He opened a channel to the assembly. His face appeared on every screen across Sci-Fi Prime. You had your chance, Jack said. You chose war again. Virex watched from his secret chamber, his cold smile fading. Earth was coming, and this time they would not stop. Sci-Fi Prime's skies turned red. The people below looked up in fear as Earth's fleet moved closer. Ships shaped like steel daggers filled the air. They moved without sound, but their weapons hummed with power. Prometheus led the way. Its dark body glowed brighter than before. The assembly's defense fleet rose to meet them. Hundreds of ships, all built by the most powerful species in the galaxy. But they were already too late. Inside Prometheus, Jack stood on the command bridge. His eyes were fixed on the enemy fleet ahead. Are the weapons ready? He asked. General Cole nodded. All cannons charged. Fighters in attack position. Jack turned to his crew. His voice was cold but clear. Fire. The first blast came from Prometheus itself. A beam of white-hot energy shot through space, cutting straight through the enemy's front line. Alien ships exploded into dust. The shockwave rocked Sci-Fi's skies. Earth's fighters flew in fast. They weaved through enemy ships, firing plasma rounds that tore metal apart. Explosions lit up the darkness like falling stars. The assembly's fleet tried to fight back. Missiles and energy blasts filled the sky. Some of Earth's smaller ships were hit, but Prometheus kept moving forward, its shield strong, its AI quick to counter every attack. On Sci-Fi's surface, panic spread. Alarms screamed across the cities. People ran for shelter. The assembly leaders watched the battle from their towers. Their faces showed fear they had never felt before. Virex stood in his hidden war room. His hands shook as he activated Project Silence. The small black device hummed to life. His guards carried it toward a stolen Earth shuttle, ready to sneak it into Prometheus. But Earth's spies were faster. Agent Riley had slipped into the assembly's base just minutes before the battle began. She wore the stolen uniform of a Zifran officer. She moved through the dark halls, unseen by guards. She found the stolen shuttle. She saw the guards loading the black box. Without a second thought, she pulled out a small energy pistol and fired. The guards fell before they could raise the alarm. Riley grabbed the device and smashed it against the metal floor. Sparks flew. The device cracked open, useless. The AI killer was destroyed. She tapped her earpiece. Jack, the device is gone. You're safe. Finish this. Back on Prometheus, Jack heard her voice. He nodded slowly. Good work, Riley. He turned to his crew. Push forward. Earth's fleet closed in on Sci-Fi's last defense towers. Cannons from the planet fired upward, but they were too weak to stop Prometheus. One by one, the towers fell under heavy fire. On the assembly's main screen, the faces of alien leaders filled the space. They begged for a ceasefire. Please, one shouted. Stop. We surrender. Virex stepped in front of them, his face twisted with rage. You cannot stop us. Earth is nothing. You hear me, Mercer? Nothing. Jack opened a direct channel to Virex. Virex's face appeared on the screen in front of him. Jack leaned closer. You had your chance, Virex. You threw it away. Virex's face turned pale. Prometheus powered up its main cannon again. The light grew brighter than before. It aimed not at the ships, but at Sci-Fi Prime itself. Jack stood in silence for a long moment. He could end it all. He could destroy the capital. He could crush the assembly forever. His crew waited for the final order. The galaxy held its breath. Zyphora Prime shook under the weight of fear. Families hid in underground shelters. Soldiers ran through the streets, trying to set up weak defense lines. But everyone knew there was no hope. No wall, no shield, no weapon could stop Prometheus now. High in orbit, Jack Mercer stood on the command bridge. The great ship's main cannon was fully charged. White light hummed through its massive body like a heartbeat ready to burst. General Cole stood next to him. All weapons ready, Commander. One shot will tear their capital apart. Jack stared at the burning sky below. His hand hovered over the final control key. The weight of every life, human and alien, pressed down on his shoulders. The faces of his people came to his mind. The mothers who had lost their children. The workers who had died in alien mines. The soldiers who had fallen during the long, painful fight for freedom. "Finish them," whispered Commander Reyes. His voice was low and hungry for revenge. "Make them pay." Jack felt his heart tighten. He wanted to press the button. He wanted to end it. But something held him back. Something small but strong. Then a voice crackled through the speakers. It was not a soldier. It was not a leader. It was a child. "This is Mila," the voice said softly. I'm just a girl from Zyphora." Everyone on the bridge stopped moving. The crew turned toward the speaker. Jack froze, his fingers still above the control. I don't know if you can hear me." The child's voice continued. "My family is hiding. We didn't vote to hurt your people. Please don't kill us. We're not all like them." The bridge fell silent. Jack's throat felt dry. His mind raced. He had spent his whole life waiting for this day. Every plan, every mission, every loss had led him here. But now, a child's simple words were louder than all the war drums in the galaxy. He looked at General Cole. She said nothing, waiting for his choice. He looked at Commander Reyes. The man's fists were shaking, his jaw tight. He looked at the crew, all silent, waiting. Jack slowly lowered his hand. "No," he whispered. "We don't become like them." He pressed the shutdown button instead. The cannon's light faded. The humming stopped. Jack opened a channel to the assembly. His face appeared on every screen in the capital. "You lose," Jack said. His voice was steady. "Earth is free. Surrender your rule and the chains you placed on my people. Do it now, or next time we won't stop." The assembly leaders nodded, pale and defeated. Even Virex stood in silence, his face dark with rage, but his eyes filled with fear. Jack turned away from the screen. His crew let out slow breaths, the tension breaking like a heavy wave. "We did it," whispered Emily Hart, stepping onto the bridge. She had watched everything. "You chose mercy." Jack nodded, though his face stayed hard. "We chose something better." But Jack knew this was not over. There were still humans held as slaves across the galaxy. There were still leaders who would try again one day. He had made one choice today, but the fight for true freedom was far from finished. For now, Earth had won, but what they would do with that victory, that was a question only tomorrow could answer. Prometheus hung silently in space above Zyphora Prime. The cannon was offline. The fleet was holding position. No more shots were fired. No more ships were destroyed. But inside the ship, the air was heavier than ever. Jack stood at the center of the bridge. He stared out the glass window, looking down at the assembly's capital. His decision had shocked everyone, both on his ship and on the planet below. He had the power to wipe them out, but he didn't. The crew didn't cheer. They didn't speak. They waited, unsure what would happen next. Commander Reyes broke the silence. His voice was low, shaking with anger. "Why did you stop, Jack?" he asked. "They deserve it. Every last one of them. You saw what they did to us. You saw what they took." General Cole stood beside him. "Reyes is right. If we don't finish this now, they'll come back stronger. We had the chance to erase them. You threw it away." Jack didn't turn to face them yet. He kept looking at the planet. "I heard a child," Jack said quietly. "She begged us to stop." Reyes took a step closer. "One voice. That's all it took to change your mind? After everything they've done?" Jack turned slowly. His face was calm, but sharp. "That one voice reminded me who we are." Reyes shook his head. "We had them. You know they'll rebuild. You know they'll try again." Jack nodded. "Yes, maybe they will. But if we become like them, if we burn their cities, kill their families, destroy their world, then we're no better. We're not here to conquer. We're here to end the chains. General Cole crossed her arms. And if they don't surrender? What if this was all for nothing? Jack pressed a button on the control panel. The main screen showed the assembly hall live. Virex stood before the other leaders. His face was cold, but the fear was clear in his dark eyes. The leaders waited for him to speak. Jack spoke first. "This is Commander Mercer of Earth," Jack said, his voice steady and loud. "You have one choice left. Surrender to Earth. End the slavery. Free our people across every world. Or we will return, and next time, we won't stop." Virex's jaw tightened. His hand shook. For a moment, it looked like he might refuse. But then, the other leaders stepped away from him. They whispered among themselves. Some pointed at Virex. Some looked down in shame. Finally, one leader, a tall blue-skinned alien named Dorel, stepped forward. "We surrender," Dorel said. "Earth is free, and so are your people." Virex tried to speak, but the guards grabbed him. They tore the golden symbols from his robes. He struggled, but they dragged him away. The assembly stood in silence as the message spread across the galaxy. Jack turned back to his crew. "It's done," he said softly. The crew didn't cheer, but their faces showed something deeper, relief. Later, Jack stood alone in the observation deck. Dr. Emily Hart joined him. They looked out at Zyphora's glowing surface. "You made the right choice," Emily whispered. Jack nodded, though he still felt the weight in his chest. "They'll fear us now," Jack said. "But I hope, one day, they'll respect us." Emily placed her hand on the glass. "What happens next?" Jack watched the stars, his voice quiet but sure. "We go home, and we make sure this never happens again." Prometheus began its slow turn away from Zyphora Prime. Earth's fleet followed in perfect formation. The battle was over, but the fight for peace had just begun. News of the Assembly's surrender spread fast across the galaxy. Planets where humans have been forced to work in chains heard the message first. In deep mines, in distant factories, on cold prison ships, humans looked up at the stars and felt something they had not felt in years. Hope. On Zyphora Prime, the Assembly leaders gathered again. But this time Virex was gone. He had been arrested by his own people, taken away in silence. His rule was over. His crimes could not be denied. In his place, a new leader stood. Dorel, the blue-skinned envoy who had spoken of surrender, now held the title of High Chancellor. He stood in front of the Assembly, holding a single sheet of silver paper. At the top, the words were clear. Treaty of Earth's Freedom. A live channel opened. Jack's face appeared once more on every screen in the hall. He spoke only 2 words. "Sign it." Dorel did not argue. He pressed his mark onto the paper. One by one, the other leaders followed. No one dared to refuse. Not after what they had seen. The treaty promised to free all humans across the galaxy. It banned slavery on every world under the Assembly's control. It named Earth an independent power, equal to all others. Any future attack on Earth would be treated as a crime against the entire Assembly. It was done. On Earth, people gathered in the streets for the first time in years. The broken cities were still damaged, but the people stood together. Screens lit up across every nation as the message arrived. Earth is free. Tears fell. People hugged each other. Flags rose again. They had waited so long to hear those words. Inside Prometheus, Jack stood with his crew one last time. General Cole, Commander Reyes, Dr. Emily Hart, and all the others watched him in silence. Jack spoke to them with a steady voice. "We won, but power is a dangerous thing. We hold it now, and the galaxy will watch us carefully. We must never become like them. We must protect our people, not rule over others." His crew nodded. General Cole stepped forward. "What's next, Commander?" Jack smiled slightly. "We go home." The ships turned toward Earth. Prometheus led the way, its engines burning bright as it carried the people of Earth back to the world they had fought so hard to save. The stars stretched ahead, quiet and endless. The galaxy had learned to fear Earth. Now it would learn something even greater. That true strength is not in how much power you hold, but in what you choose not to do with it.